We stand at the threshold of a fevered landscape, a world where the air itself seems to vibrate with the hum of 1,000 invisible demands. We move through our days like travelers lost in a furnace, our skin prickling with the heat of an internal fire that never truly cools. Notice for a moment the posture you hold as you exist in this space. Your shoulders are likely pulled toward your ears, a defensive armor you have worn for so long that you have forgotten it is not a part of your own anatomy. Your jaw is clenched, a silent lock against words you have not dared to speak, and your breath is caught, shallow and jagged, in the upper chambers of your chest. We are living in a crucible of our own design, a place where the persistent heat of daily frustration has become the only temperature we know how to endure. We have convinced ourselves that this constant, gnawing friction between who we are and what we think we must become is the engine of our progress. We believe that if we are not feeling the pressure, if we are not suffering from the heat of the struggle, then we are not achieving anything of value. Yet, look at the exhaustion that resides behind our eyes, a deep, cellular fatigue that no amount of sleep seems to reach. We are experiencing the sensory saturation of a life lived at a speed that ignores the organic pulse of our own biology. Every ping, every notification, every silent expectation from the world outside acts as a spark, and we, in our infinite capacity for concern, have become the fuel we treat our minds like an overheated engine, pushing the pedal down, even as the warning lights flash red. We feel the burn in our stomachs, the tight, acidic pull of irritation when things do not align with our internal blueprints, but we do not stop. We do not ask why we are burning. We simply assume that the heat is the price of admission for a life of consequence. We are the masters of our own agitation, pouring more fuel onto the flames, convinced that if we can just outpace the fire, if we can just perform our way out of the crucible, we will finally arrive at the cool, quiet peace we have been promised by the very systems that keep us running. But we are not machines, and this is not a mechanical problem to be solved with more force. We are living organisms, and we are suffering from a profound structural misalignment. Consider the way a blacksmith prepares metal. The fire is not meant to destroy, it is meant to soften, to refine, to make the material capable of being reshaped. But the metal does not decide to be melted. It is placed in the furnace because it has become rigid, because it has forgotten its own capacity for change. We, however, have become our own blacksmiths, and we are spending our lives throwing ourselves into the furnace of our own impatience. We feel the heat of a traffic jam, a misunderstood email, or a project that is not moving fast enough, and we immediately begin to hammer ourselves with the frustration of the second arrow. We are not just experiencing the delay, we are experiencing our rejection of the delay, and that rejection is a searing, relentless heat that burns far more intensely than the original situation ever could. We find ourselves in a state of constant, low-grade irritation because we have attached our identity to the outcome of our efforts. We believe that if the world does not bend to our will, we have somehow lost our structural integrity. We have become the frenetic performers, convinced that our worth is proportional to the amount of pressure we can withstand. But observe how the body responds to this. The solar plexus tightens, the heart beats in a staccato rhythm of panic, and the nervous system remains stuck in a perpetual state of fight or flight, even in the absence of a real physical threat. We are burning through our vital energy, our curiosity, and our capacity for joy, all to satisfy the ego's demand that we be the architects of a reality that is, by its very nature, beyond our control. This heat is not progress. It is the waste product of our resistance. Think of the way you react when something breaks your flow. You are in the middle of a task, focused, and someone interrupts, or a technical failure stalls your progress. The initial sting is the first arrow, it is the reality of the disruption. But then the internal temperature spikes. You feel the heat of the second arrow, the narrative that tells you this is a disaster, that you are being sabotaged, that your time is being stolen. That narrative is the crucible. It is the story that sets the atmosphere of your life to a constant searing blaze. We are so used to this temperature that we have lost the ability to distinguish between the situation and our reaction to it. We think the world is the fire, when in truth, we are the ones striking the match every single time we refuse to accept what is currently taking place. This is the sensory landscape of our modern existence. A feedback loop of irritation, a cycle of reactive heat that drains us of our capacity for genuine presence. We are so busy trying to manage the fire that we have forgotten how to walk through it. We are so busy trying to maintain the image of the stoic, high-performing architect of our own lives that we have forgotten how to simply sit in the crucible and notice the heat for what it actually is. It is energy. It is intensity. It is the friction of being alive in a world that is moving faster than our nervous systems are designed to process. But it is not a reason to harden our hearts. It is not a reason to tighten our jaws and brace our shoulders against the inevitable. It is an invitation to refine our perception, to move from the frantic, desperate labor of the builder into the quiet, potent presence of the alchemist. We are standing at the edge of this crucible, feeling the immense crushing weight of our own expectations. And we are beginning to realize that the heat is not a sign that we are failing. It is a sign that we are in the process of being tested. We are being asked to refine our relationship with the world, to move away from the rigid, defensive posture of the ego and toward the fluid, responsive, and ultimately more resilient state of the witness. We are here to learn how to inhabit the furnace without becoming part of the ash. We are here to learn that patience is not a passive surrender, but an active, internal fire that transmutes the leaden, heavy weight of our frustration into the gold of a life lived with total, unadorned presence. We are here to realize that the crucible is not a place of destruction, but a place of profound, inner transformation. We have spent our entire lives trying to escape this heat, running toward the mirage of a cool, finished future where everything will finally be under control. We have spent our energy fleeing from the present, only to find that the fire follows us wherever we go. It is in the way we eat, the way we sleep, the way we speak to those we love, and the way we speak to ourselves in the silence of the night. We are the keepers of our own furnace, and we are finally ready to turn our attention away from the smoke and toward the flame itself. We are ready to look at the heat not as an enemy, but as the medium of our own refinement. We are ready to stop burning ourselves alive and start using the energy of our own humanity to create something that is not just functional, but profoundly, beautifully alive. This is the beginning of the pivot. We are no longer going to ask how we can escape the crucible. We are going to ask how we can live within it without being consumed. We are going to learn how to modulate the temperature of our own minds, how to take the raw, intense sensation of frustration and turn it into the steady, clear-eyed focus of a mind that is at rest, even when the world around it is in motion. We are going to learn that the stillness we seek is not found by moving out of the fire, but by becoming the space that allows the fire to exist. We are the witness, and the crucible is the stage. And as we continue to breathe, as we continue to observe the heat without reacting to it, we will see that the fire is not our enemy. It is the very source of our own unfolding inner gold. We find ourselves embedded in a culture of the high-velocity furnace, a place where the ego thrives on the constant friction of ambition and the relentless pursuit of an idealized tomorrow. Think of the individual who lives in this space professional, who believes that their worth is measured by the sheer volume of their output. The parent who feels that every waking moment must be a masterclass in optimization. Or the seeker who believes that if they could just refine their routines enough, they would finally reach a state of permanent, unshakable peace. This person is the architect of the crucible, the one who meticulously builds the walls of the furnace, believing that the heat is a necessary byproduct of their importance. Yet, when we look closer at this archetypal figure, we see the true cost of this endeavor. We see the body reacting with a profound, primitive protest against the constant artificial pressure. Observe the physical manifestations of this heated ego. It is not merely a mental state, it is a somatic reality. When the frenetic performer encounters a reality that does not conform to their internal blueprint, the entire nervous system goes into a state of acute high-frequency alarm. The jaw locks, not as a symbol of strength, but as a reflex to suppress the raw, honest expression of frustration. The muscles of the neck and upper back harden, creating a physical bridge of tension that effectively cuts off the fluid, intuitive wisdom of the heart from the analytical, demanding logic of the mind. This is the physiological signature of the crucible, a body that is constantly braced, perpetually waiting for the next impact, and hopelessly depleted by the effort of holding itself together. We perceive this heat as irritation, but beneath that thin, angry surface lies a much deeper, more complex layer of fear. We fear that if lower the temperature, if we soften the rigidity of our daily performances, we will simply disappear. We have confused our busyness with our existence. We believe that if we are not burning, we are not living. This is the ultimate, most insidious trap of the modern ego. It uses the language of excellence, of progress, and of self-actualization to justify a state of chronic internal warfare. We are like an engine running at the red line, the oil thinning, the gears grinding, all while we stare at the dashboard, desperate to convince ourselves that we are actually moving forward. But we are not moving, we are merely burning. We are consuming our own vitality, our own capacity for joy, and our own innate organic rhythm to maintain a machine that was never meant to sustain such intensity. The psychological friction here is a product of a deep-seated, systemic misunderstanding. We view the crucible as an obstacle that must be overcome by applying even more pressure. When we feel overwhelmed, we do not pause, we optimize. When we feel the heat of failure, we do not investigate the source, we redouble our efforts. We are constantly attempting to solve a crisis of presence with a strategy of performance. This creates a feedback loop of misery, where the effort to fix the discomfort only serves to increase the heat. We are caught in a cycle of reactive desperation, where every action is a movement of panic rather than a gesture of wisdom. And because we are so identified with the role of the performer, we are terrified to stop. We think that if we stop the frantic labor, the world will see us for what we are, a collection of fears and vulnerabilities, and that this would be the ultimate, final collapse. But what if we were to view this irritation not as a failure, but as a diagnostic tool? What if the burning in your stomach, the tension in your shoulders, and the racing of your mind were actually the body's way of telling you that you are not in alignment with your own nature? When the blacksmith heats the iron, he knows that the metal must be malleable to be shaped. But he also knows that if he leaves it in the fire too long, the metal will lose its structural integrity and become brittle. We are living in a state of permanent heat, and we are becoming brittle. We are losing our ability to adapt, to bend, to respond with grace. We have become rigid in our pursuit of control, and because we are rigid, we are prone to breaking under the smallest pressures. Look at how we respond to the inevitable, small disruptions of our day. A phone call that doesn't go our way, a delay in traffic, a colleague who doesn't meet our expectation. These are the first arrows, the small, unavoidable frictions of living in a world of other people and unpredictable events in a state of harmonic equilibrium. These disruptions are simply waves passing through a large, calm body of water. They ripple, they disappear, and the surface remains essentially undisturbed. But when we are living in the crucible, every disruption is a tectonic event. We take the first arrow, and we immediately fire the second the internal commentary that tells us this disruption is a personal affront, a threat to our identity, or a sign that we are falling behind. This second arrow is the true source of our suffering. It is the story we tell ourselves, the narrative of victimization, the demand that the world be different than it actually is. This is the alchemy we must begin to master. We must learn to catch the second arrow before it hits. We must learn to recognize the narrative of the crucible for what it is: a set of stories, a series of mental projections, a collection of habits that we have mistaken for the truth of our own being. When the heat rises, when you feel the familiar surge of frustration, can you pause? Can you sit with the sensation of the heat without rushing to fix it, to justify it, or to vent it? Can you simply notice that the body is experiencing a surge of energy, and that this energy, in and of itself, is neutral? It is not bad, it is not wrong, it is just intensity. By observing the intensity without the narrative, you begin to change the nature of the fire. You are no longer the victim of the heat, you are the observer of it. This is a fundamental shift in consciousness. We are moving away from being the fuel and the fire, and we are becoming the furnace itself, fast, stable, and capable of containing the intensity without being damaged by it. This is not a path of apathy. We are not trying to become indifferent to the world. On the contrary, we are trying to become fully, radically present to it. We are trying to cultivate a level of awareness that is deep enough to encompass the intensity of our experience without needing to contract in response. This is the definition of true patience. It is not the passive endurance of something unpleasant, it is the active cultivation of an internal state that is so robust, so rooted in the present, that it can hold the heat of the world without losing its own cool. Consider the way we hold on to our goals. We often hold them like a bird, with such a tight, frantic grip that we crush the very thing we are trying to protect. We are so afraid that if we don't hold on, we will fail, that we don't realize our grip is the primary source of our anxiety. To transmute this, we must learn to hold our goals, our ambitions, and our desires with an open palm. We must learn to act with purpose, to work with vigor, to pursue our path with all our heart, but to do so without the attachment to the outcome that fuels the fire of our impatience. When we let go of the demand that reality be a certain way, we find that we have so much more energy to dedicate to the act of living itself. We are no longer wasting our vitality on the resistance, we are investing it in the process. This shift in relationship to our own ego is the most difficult, yet the most essential part of the practice. We have identified so strongly with the doer, the one who gets things done, the one who overcomes, the one who wins, that we are afraid of the being who resides beneath that surface. We are afraid that if we stop doing, we will cease to exist. But look at the evidence of your own life. Who is the one who notices the busyness? Who is the one who feels the tension? Who is the one who is reading these words right now? It is not the doer, it is the witness. The witness is the one who remains when the busyness falls away, and the witness is, by its very nature, perfectly still. It is not burned by the fire, because it is not identified with the metal. It is the awareness that allows the heat to be felt, the observer who watches the drama of the ego without getting caught in the script. As you cultivate this witness, you will notice that the intensity of your life does not necessarily decrease. The demands of your job, the complexities of your relationships, and the challenges of the world will likely continue. But your response to them will be radically transformed. You will no longer be cooked by the heat of your own resistance. You will be able to move through the day with a sense of fluid resilience, responding to the intensity with the grace of someone who knows that they are not the problem. You will be able to speak your truth without the need to be aggressive. You will be able to set boundaries without the need to be defensive. You will be able to experience success without the need to be proud, and failure without the need to be ashamed. you will be standing in the center of the crucible, and you will be utterly, completely, and serenely at home. We have spent so long identifying with the friction that we have forgotten the space in which the friction occurs. Think of a musical instrument. The sound is created by the vibration of the strings, the tension of the instrument, and the force of the player. But the music exists in the space of the auditorium. It does not exist inside the instrument. The instrument is merely the vehicle for the sound. We are the same. We are the space, the auditorium, the capacity for experience. We have spent so much time identifying with the vibrating strings, with the tension, with the struggle to produce the perfect note, that we have forgotten we are the space that holds the entire symphony. When we remember our true nature, the struggle to produce the note begins to fade. We are no longer trying to force the music out of a closed, tight, and tense system. We are allowing the music to arise from a space of openness and possibility. This is the alchemy of the present. It is the process of returning, again and again, to the awareness of the space. Whenever you feel the heat rising, whenever you feel the grip of the second arrow, stop, take a breath. Feel the physical sensation of the heat in your body, the tightening, the pulsing, the burning, and then intentionally expand your awareness. Imagine that your awareness is not confined to the tightness, but that it surrounds it, that it is vast, and that it is capable of containing the discomfort without being changed by it. This is the practice of the crucible. It is the practice of being bigger than your own pain. It is the practice of realizing that you are the vessel, not the contents. And when you are the vessel, you can hold anything. You can hold the joy, you can hold the sorrow, you can hold the frustration, and you can hold the success, and none of them will leave a mark. This requires a level of honesty that we are often unprepared to offer ourselves. We prefer to blame the world, to blame our circumstances, or to blame our own lack of discipline, because these are easier to manage than the truth. The truth is that we are the ones who are creating the friction. We are the ones who are clinging to the illusion of control. We are the ones who are firing the second arrow. To accept this is not a cause for shame, it is a cause for profound liberation. If we are the ones creating the problem, we are the ones who have the power to stop it. This is the most empowering realization an individual can reach. We are not trapped in a life of suffering by external forces. We are living in a self-constructed cage of our own resistance. And the door to that cage has never been locked. It was only closed because we were holding the handle from the inside. As we move deeper into this exploration, we must confront the fear of the unknown. We are used to the heat of our lives. Even when it is painful, it is familiar, it is predictable. We know how to operate in a state of high-functioning panic. It is the currency of our time. But what happens if we step into the cool, silent, unknown space of being? What happens if we stop being the architects of our own pressure? We fear that we will lose our edge, that we will become lazy, that we will stop achieving, that we will fade into obscurity. This is the last stand of the ego, the final desperate argument of the architect. But it is a lie. When we operate from a place of presence, our actions become more effective, not less. We are not paralyzed by the internal chatter of doubt and fear. We are not dissipated by the heat of our own reactivity. We are focused, we are aligned, and we are acting from a place of clarity that is far more powerful than the reactive intensity of the ego. The energy you have been using to maintain the furnace is immense. It is the energy of 1,000 small internal conflicts. It is the energy of 1,000 small daily judgments. When you stop using that energy to fight with reality, you will find that you have a vast, untapped reserve of vitality available to you. You will be able to apply this energy to your work, to your relationships, and to your personal growth with a precision and a depth that you have never known before. You will find that you are more productive, more creative, and more resilient. You will find that you are actually becoming the person you always wanted to be, not by building an image, but by discovering the essence that was hidden beneath the heat. This is the transition from the base metal to the gold. It is not a change in substance, it is a change in quality. It is the process of removing the impurities of our own conditioning, the distortions of our own ego, and the stories that we have told ourselves about who we are and what we need. It is the process of becoming more truly, more authentically, and more essentially ourselves. It is a journey of uncovering, not of adding. We are taking away the parts of us that are not real, the parts that were borrowed from our culture, from our families, and from our own fears. And what remains when we have stripped it all away? What remains is the gold. What remains is the truth of our own, unconditioned and radiant presence. As we contemplate this, let us consider the way we interact with others. We often treat the people in our lives as variables in our own, personal and frantic equation of control. We want them to be a certain way, to react a certain way, to support us in a certain way, and when they don't, we feel the heat, we experience the friction. We fire the second arrow. But what if we were to treat the people in our lives as fellow travelers in the same intense crucible? What if we were to recognize that they too are struggling with the heat, that they too are trying to maintain their own sense of self, and that they too are operating from a place of fear? If we can recognize the shared nature of our struggle, the heat of our frustration is instantly replaced by a deep, compassionate sense of connection. We are all in this furnace together. We are all being refined. And we are all, in our own way, reaching for the same cool and quiet reality of peace. This changes the entire tone of our existence. It moves us from a posture of competition to a posture of cooperation. It moves us from a state of me against the world to a state of me and the world, in constant, unfolding dance. We are no longer trying to dominate our environment. We are trying to harmonize with it. We are no longer trying to force the outcome. We are trying to participate in the process. We are no longer trying to control the heat. We are learning how to use it. This is the alchemy of the heart. It is the process of turning our individual, separate and suffering selves into a part of a larger, more inclusive and more harmonious whole. And in this whole, there is no more friction, because there is no more ego trying to define itself against the world. There is only the flow of existence, and we are the participants in that flow. Observe how your breath is moving now. Has it changed since we began? Is it slightly deeper? Is it slightly softer? This is the body acknowledging the truth of what we are discussing. The body knows. The nervous system is recognizing the potential for a different way of being. It is catching a glimpse of the possibility that we don't have to be on fire all the time. It is beginning to trust that it is safe to relax, that it is safe to be present, and that it is safe to let go of the rigid, protective posture that has served us for so long. This is the beginning of the return. It is the process of coming back to ourselves, of settling into the deep, quiet center of our own being, and of realizing that the peace we were searching for in the future has been here, beneath the heat, all along. The journey into the crucible is the journey into the depths of our own humanity. It is the most challenging, the most rewarding, and the most essential journey we will ever take. We are stripping away the illusions, we are dismantling the defenses, and we are opening ourselves to the raw, unfiltered truth of the present. And as we do this, we find that we are becoming something that we never thought possible. We are becoming whole, we are becoming integrated, we are becoming clear, we are becoming the gold. And the world, which once looked like a place of struggle and heat, is now beginning to look like a place of infinite possibility, a place where we are finally free to be the people we were always meant to be. We stand in the fire, but we are not consumed. We stand in the noise, but we are not distracted. We stand in the struggle, but we are not defeated. We have found the alchemy of the heart, the secret of the transmutation, and the key to the crucible. We are no longer the victims of the heat, We are the masters of our own inner alchemy, and from this place of stillness, from this place of clarity, from this place of equilibrium, we can finally begin to see the world as it truly is, and we can finally begin to live the life that is truly ours. The furnace is still there, the heat is still real, but we are no longer afraid, we are no longer burning. We are the gold, and the gold is radiant, the gold is enduring, and the gold is ready for whatever comes next. This is not a state of perfection, but a state of presence. It is the ability to show up to the crucible, day after day, and to bring the same steady and compassionate attention to whatever arises. It is the capacity to hold the tension, to feel the heat, to notice the second arrow, and to choose over and over the path of presence rather than the path of resistance. It is a practice, a discipline, and a way of living. It is the ultimate expression of the human potential. And as you walk forward, let the realization of your own inner alchemy be the foundation of everything you do. You are not a machine. You are a living, breathing, and unfolding miracle, and you have the power to turn even the most difficult and heated situations into the catalysts for your own profound growth. The road ahead is unwritten. We have dismantled the blueprints, and we have left the ruins of our old, rigid identities behind. We are standing in the wide, open, and beautiful landscape of the present moment, and we are free to go wherever our presence leads us. The heat of the world may rise, but we have the cooling, steadying, and refining power of our own inner gold. We have the practice, we have the perspective, and we have the capacity to live in a way that is not defined by our struggles, but by the depth of our awareness and the quality of our surrender. We are ready. The crucible is not a place of burning, it is a place of becoming, and we are becoming exactly what we are: pure, radiant, and perfectly at peace. We are reaching the stage where we must take this understanding and ground it in our actual lives. It is not enough to talk about alchemy, we must be the alchemists. We must take the materials of our daily struggles, the annoyances, the disappointments, the challenges, and the friction, and we must put them into the furnace of our awareness. Not to destroy them, but to refine them. We must learn to sit with our irritation until it transforms into patience. We must learn to sit with our fear until it transforms into courage. We must learn to sit with our anger until it transforms into clarity. We are the agents of our own transformation, and the crucible is the only place where the transformation can occur. Think of your life as a practice room, a place where you are constantly being presented with the exact conditions you need to refine your soul. If you find yourself in a state of high-pressure work, that is your crucible. If you find yourself in the middle of a difficult relationship, that is your crucible. If you find yourself struggling with a personal challenge, that is your crucible. Do not try to move to a different room. Do not try to find a more comfortable space. The room you are in is the room you need. The heat you are feeling is the heat you need. Use it, work with it. Let it burn away the impurities of your ego, the dross of your past conditioning, and the rigid, defensive structures that are preventing you from being fully present. This is a path of radical accountability. We are moving from the state of happening to us to the state of happening through us. We are realizing that we are not the pawns of our environment, but the conscious participants in our own evolution. Every interaction, every email, every conversation, and every moment of silence is a chance to practice. Every time you feel the heat, you have a choice. You can react, or you can refine. You can burn, or you can transmute. You can tighten, or you can soften. You can build a wall, or you can open a gate. Every moment is a moment of choice, and every choice is a step toward the gold. This is the alchemy of daily life. We must also cultivate the quality of patience. Not the patience of gritting our teeth and waiting for the ordeal to end, but the patience of the gardener who understands that the plant needs the season to grow. We are in a season of refinement. This is a process that requires time, commitment, and a great deal of self-compassion. There will be days when we feel like we are making progress, and there will be days when we feel like we are right back in the middle of the furnace, burning with the same old frustrations. This is normal. This is part of the process. The alchemist does not get angry at the furnace. He understands that the process is ongoing. Be kind to yourself as you walk this path. Recognize your efforts, celebrate your insights, and forgive your lapses. You are learning a new language, the language of the soul, and it takes time to become fluent. The final element of this alchemy is the quality of gratitude. Can you be grateful for the crucible? Can you look at the heat of your life and recognize it as a gift? Can you see that without this heat, you would still be the rigid, unaware, and defensive person you were before? Can you recognize that the very things you were trying to escape were the things that were most necessary for your evolution? When we reach this level of understanding, the heat no longer feels like a burden. It feels like a service. It feels like a necessary, supportive, and refining presence in our lives. We begin to approach the crucible with reverence, with gratitude, and with a deep, abiding respect for the process of our own becoming. This leads us to a state of profound, inner equilibrium. We are moving toward a place where the inner and the outer are no longer in opposition. Our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions are beginning to align with the truth of the present moment. We are no longer saying one thing and doing another. We are no longer feeling one thing and projecting another. We are becoming a whole, integrated and harmonious being, and in this state, the friction of daily life begins to drop away. Not because the world has changed, but because we have stopped creating the friction that made it so difficult. We are no longer struggling with reality. We are flowing with it. We are the river, we are the stone, and we are the water that moves between them. We are in harmony with the process of our own existence. This equilibrium is the state of the golden heart. It is a heart that is completely open, completely compassionate, and completely at rest. It is a heart that has been through the fire and has come out on the other side, refined, purified, and ready to hold the entire world in its embrace. It is a heart that no longer needs to be protected, because it has realized that its true nature is invincible. It is a heart that no longer needs to be satisfied, because it has realized that it is already complete. This is the goal of our practice, the result of our alchemy, and the truth of our own inherent nature. We are nearing the end of this current descent. The furnace is still burning, but the temperature has changed. The heat is no longer a searing, destructive force. It is a warm, steady, and refining glow. It is the light of awareness that is now permeating every aspect of our lives. We have done the work. We have faced the heat. We have refined the metal, and we are now standing, not as the architects of our own pressure, but as the alchemists of our own beautiful and unfolding reality. The journey has been long, the fire has been intense, but the result, the gold of our own authentic self, is worth every single moment of the struggle. And so, we must ask ourselves as we step back into the world, how will we carry this gold? How will we bring this alchemy into our work, our relationships, and our daily mundane tasks? How will we continue to refine our presence, to deepen our awareness, and to stay in harmony with the flow? How will we hold the heat of the world without losing our cool? How will we keep our hearts open when the temptation to close them is so strong? How will we stay true to the gold when the pressure to be lead is so great? These are the questions that will guide our path forward, the questions that will keep us on the journey, and the questions that will remind us of the truth we have found here in the heart of the crucible. The answers are not in the words. The answers are in the practice. The answers are in the way you breathe, the way you listen, the way you speak, and the way you hold yourself in the face of the fire. The answers are in the choices you make, one after another, in the crucible of your daily life. And as you step out of this room, as you step back into the heat of your own existence, know that you are not alone. You are part of the vast, unfolding, and ever-refining whole. You are the gold, you are the alchemist, and the furnace is your home. What will you create in the next moment? What will you refine in the next breath? What will you become as the fire continues to burn? We are finished with the design. We are finished with the construction. We are finished with the frantic, exhausting, and ultimately futile labor of the builder. We are ready to embrace the life of the alchemist. We are ready to participate in the great unfolding mystery of our own becoming. We are ready to be the gold. And as we take this first small step, as we move out of the crucible and back into the flow of our daily, noisy, and beautiful lives, we carry with us the steady, quiet, and radiant power of our own inner alchemy. The fire is burning, but we are the flame. The world is in motion, but we are the stillness at its heart. We are here, we are present, and we are ready for whatever comes next. As we conclude this part of our journey, feel the weight of what we have discussed settle into your consciousness. Let the realization of your own inherent gold be the final lingering thought as you prepare to move back into your life. You have the power to transform the heat. You have the power to refine the struggle. You have the power to become the light that you were always meant to be. The crucible is not a place of destruction, it is a place of refinement. And you, my friend, are the refinement. You are the gold. You are the proof that even in the middle of the fire, it is possible to find the steady, quiet, and beautiful reality of peace. The silence that now follows is not a silence of emptiness, but a silence of integration. It is the time for you to sit with what you have heard, to feel the resonance in your own life, and to begin the work of applying this alchemy to your own unique situation. There is no right way to do this. There is only the way that you do it. There is no perfect result. There is only the process, and the process is beautiful, the process is necessary, and the process is the path to your own authentic self. And as you sit here in the quiet, as you feel the presence of your own inner gold, ask yourself one final time, as you prepare to engage with the world once more, what is the single most difficult part of your life right now, and what would it be like to treat that not as an obstacle to be overcome, but as the very furnace you need to turn your lead into gold? Ban Mun Lamzi tip: draft a daily, create a list of, generate a 10-minute guided meditation for the crucible practice. We have arrived at the critical juncture where the scalpel of inquiry must touch the nerve of our own making. We have looked at the architecture of the rigid self and the physical toll of our constant, frantic maintenance. Now we must face the mechanism of our own suffering, the phenomenon of the second arrow. Imagine, if you will, the sharp, sudden sting of an unexpected event, the loss of a relationship, the blunt force of professional rejection, or the quiet, creeping realization that the path we have spent years constructing is leading us nowhere. This is the first arrow. It is the raw, unadorned reality of life, the inevitable friction that arises when our expectations collide with the fluid, unpredictable nature of existence. It is painful, yes, but it is also simple. It is a moment of impact, a singular point of data in the landscape of our lives. But then, the second arrow arrives. And this arrow is not thrown by the world, it is drawn, notched and fired by our own hand. This is the arrow of commentary, the internal narrative that insists this should not have happened, the self-flagellation that asks why we were not smart enough to prevent it, and the desperate, frantic effort to build a fortress of reasons to explain away our vulnerability. We take the initial pain and we multiply it by the weight of our own judgment. We tell ourselves that because we feel pain, we are failing. We tell ourselves that if we were more disciplined, more enlightened, or more optimized, we would be immune to such disturbances. This is the ultimate, most insidious trap of the modern ego. It uses the language of self-improvement to deepen the wounds of self-hatred. Consider the anatomy of this self-inflicted agony. When we feel that first surge of grief or disappointment, the mind immediately scrambles for an anchor. It wants to pin the event down, to label it, to categorize it as a catastrophe or a moral failing. We become the victim, the perpetrator, and the judge, all at once. We are running a feedback loop of misery, playing back the event in high definition, analyzing our own reactions, and projecting a future where this pain is permanent. We are not living in the event, we are living in the memory of the event, and the shadow of the fear of its return. This is the second arrow. It is the ego's desperate attempt to regain control by manufacturing a reality that is more rigid, more predictable, and more terrifying than the one that actually exists. The wisdom of the sages suggests that we are capable of enduring the first arrow, that the human organism is designed to feel, to process, and to release the impact of reality. But we are not designed to endure the second. The second arrow is a poison that seeps into the bloodstream of our awareness, turning a momentary challenge into a chronic condition of despair. We see this in the way we hold our identity as if it were a fragile piece of porcelain. We have convinced ourselves that if we are not the protagonists of a successful upwardly mobile narrative, we are nothing. So, when the narrative hits a snag, when the story takes a turn we did not write, we feel that our very existence is being threatened. We do not see the event as a change in the weather, we see it as an indictment of our soul. To break this cycle, we must begin to treat the mind as a field of inquiry rather than a factory of judgment. We must learn to distinguish between the sensation of the experience and the story we weave around it. When the first arrow lands, when the sharp, cold reality of loss strikes, can we pause? Can we allow the sensation to exist without the immediate reflexive urge to label it as bad or wrong? This is the core of the practice. It is not about avoiding the pain. That is a fantasy of the architect. It is about removing the second arrow before it can lodge itself in our psyche. It is about the radical honesty of saying, "This hurts," and then simply letting it be, without the extra, exhausting labor of trying to fix it, deny it, or justify it. We have spent our lives trying to become something, and in the process, we have lost the ability to simply be. We are like travelers who are so obsessed with the destination that we refuse to acknowledge the landscape we are walking through, especially when that landscape is dark, rocky, or uninviting. We treat our own inner states as obstacles to be removed. We want the peace without the presence, the stillness without the surrender. But peace is not the absence of difficulty, it is the presence of awareness in the midst of it. It is the ability to stand in the center of the storm and recognize that while the wind is loud and the rain is cold, they are not us. They are just the elements, moving through the field of our experience. This shift requires us to dismantle the very foundation of the architect's project. It requires us to admit that we are not the managers of our own lives. We are the witnesses. Think of the way a mirror reflects a mountain. The mountain may be jagged, it may be covered in snow, it may be hit by storms, but the mirror remains clear. It does not try to change the mountain. It does not try to smooth the edges or add a layer of warmth. It simply holds the image, and then, as the mountain changes with the passing of time, the reflection changes with it. The mirror is not stained by the image of the storm. It is not damaged by the height of the peaks. It is perfectly intact, perfectly still, because it has no investment in the image it reflects. We are that mirror, but we have become so enamored with the reflection that we have forgotten the glass. The second arrow is the story that the reflection is the truth. We see our pain in the mirror, and we cry out because we think the glass itself is cracking. We see our failures, and we despair because we think we have lost our structural integrity. But the glass never cracks. The awareness that witnesses the pain is never in pain. This is the secret of our own nature. We are the vast, unconditioned space that allows all these things, joy, grief, success, failure, to arise and pass away. When we start to live from this space, the second arrow loses its power. It can still land because we are still human, but it cannot penetrate the depths of our being because there is no longer a rigid, defensive ego to take the hit. We have become porous. We have become light. Consider the effort we put into maintaining the illusion of a solid self. It is an exhausting task, requiring constant vigilance, constant narration, and constant justification. We are always defending, always proving, always refining our position. But what if we were to simply drop the defense? What if we were to walk into the world with our palms open? Not because we are naive, but because we have nothing left to hide. The architect spends so much time protecting the blueprint that he never notices the house is built on a shifting dune. The reality of impermanence is not a threat, it is our only true security. Because nothing stays the same, nothing is ever stuck. The pain you feel today is not the pain you will feel tomorrow, because the ground is constantly shifting beneath it. We often fear this movement, but it is the very essence of our freedom. If everything were solid, we would be trapped forever in our mistakes, in our identities, and in our histories. But because everything is in motion, we have the capacity to begin anew in every single breath. The second arrow is the attempt to freeze time, to fix the world into a shape that we can manage. But the world refuses to be fixed, and the more we fight that, the more we suffer. The real transformation begins when we stop fighting the nature of the river and start learning how to swim. It is not about effort, it is about alignment. It is about understanding that the flow is not happening to us, it is happening through us. We have arrived at a moment of profound, quiet clarity. The noise of the architect is fading. The frantic, grinding sound of the gears of performance is slowing down. For the first time, we can hear the silence that has been waiting underneath the chatter. This silence is not empty, it is full. It is the potential of everything that has not yet been built, the possibility of everything that has not yet been named. It is the space where our true selves, the selves that exist beyond the labels and the expectations, can finally emerge. We are moving toward a state where we no longer need to be the hero or the villain, the success or the failure. We are becoming the witness. We are becoming the space itself. Observe the way the breath enters the body. It does not ask permission. It does not check the status of our reputation. It just flows, filling the lungs, nourishing the tissues, and then exiting, leaving behind the carbon of our past. We are in every moment being breathed. We are in every moment being lived. If we could trust this process as much as we trust the simple biological act of breathing, our entire experience of life would transform. We would realize that the struggle we are engaged in is purely optional. We are voluntarily choosing the second arrow because we think it gives us meaning. We think that if we are not suffering, we are not living. But that is a lie that the ego tells itself to justify its own existence. The truth is much simpler and much more beautiful. Life is meant to be lived with a light touch. We are meant to experience the full spectrum of our humanity, the highs, the lows, the laughter and the tears without needing to archive them, judge them, or build a career out of them. We are here to participate in the dance, not to choreograph it. When we stop trying to be the architects of our own experience, we discover that the universe has already provided the design. The design is the unfolding of the present moment, the constant shifting and exquisite movement of the world, and we are the only ones standing in our own way, clutching our blueprints, waiting for the building to be finished so we can finally start living. The structural integrity we seek is not found in the strength of our walls, it is found in the depth of our roots. When a tree is deeply rooted, it does not need to hold itself up. The earth holds it, and the more the wind blows, the deeper the roots grow. We are being tested, yes. We are being shaken, yes. But this is not meant to break us, it is meant to anchor us. It is meant to show us where we are still clutching, where we are still clinging, and where we are still refusing to let go. And in every point of friction, there is an opportunity to relax, to soften, and to expand. We are becoming something else entirely. something that can hold the weight of reality without the need for armor, something that can witness the passing of our own lives with a sense of wonder rather than a sense of loss. We are reaching the end of this current phase of our descent into the truth. The architect is tired, the tools are heavy, the blueprints have blurred in the rain. It is time to set them down. It is time to walk out of the structure and into the open, vast and silent garden. There is no roof here, only the sky. There are no walls, only the horizon. There is no schedule, only the season. We are finally truly in the right place. We are finally truly ourselves. And in this vast, unscripted space, we find that the peace we have been searching for was never a destination to reach, but the very ground we were standing on all along. The journey from the closed, frantic chamber of the ego to the open, luminous field of the soul is not a long one. It is only as far as the next breath. It is as close as the awareness that is reading these words right now. The transition from the rigid, defended self to the fluid, witness self is not a sudden rupture, but a gradual, organic shedding. Like the snake that leaves behind its old, constrictive skin, we are simply outgrowing the structures that once protected us. We no longer need the thick, heavy walls of our past achievements to define our presence in the room. We no longer need the scaffold of our future anxieties to ensure our relevance. We are discovering that our value is not an earned asset, but an inherent quality, like the light of the sun or the scent of the rain. It is always there, waiting for the clouds of our own making to disperse. And as we continue to let go, as we continue to practice the art of simply noticing, we find that the world around us also begins to change. Or perhaps it is we who have changed, and therefore the world looks different. The colors are sharper, the sounds are more distinct, the texture of our own existence feels more vibrant, more immediate. This is the quality of the unburdened life. It is not that the challenges have disappeared. The challenges are still there, the losses are still real, and the difficulties of being human are still present. But they no longer carry the weight of an identity. They are just events, passing through the space of our awareness like clouds through the sky. They do not leave a stain, they do not alter the fundamental, radiant core of who we are. We are beginning to understand what it means to be in the world, but not of it. We are in the current, but we are not the current. We are the witness, the space, the silent, observing consciousness that remains when everything else has been stripped away. This brings us to the threshold of a new way of being, a way that is grounded in the reality of the present rather than the anticipation of the future. We are no longer trying to solve life. We are no longer trying to curate our experience into a collection of perfect, photogenic moments. We are allowing the raw, unfiltered truth of our lives to unfold, and we are finding that it is enough. It is more than enough. It is the only thing that could ever be enough. We are learning to hold the grief, to hold the joy, to hold the uncertainty, and to hold the hope all in the same open and ungrasping palm. And in that act of holding, we find a structural integrity that no architect could ever dream of building. We are becoming as solid as the earth and as light as the wind. The path forward is not a climb, but a descent. It is a journey into the depth of our own humanity, into the quiet, dark and fertile soil where our true potential is waiting. We are moving away from the loud, bright and demanding world of the ego and into the soft, quiet and expansive world of the soul. We are finding that the less we need to be, the more we actually become. We are finding that the less we need to control, the more we are actually supported. We are moving from a state of performance to a state of presence. And in this movement, we are discovering a form of sovereignty that is absolute, unshakable, and completely our own. It is the sovereignty of the heart that has nothing to prove and everything to feel. As we stand in this space of transition, let the realization sink deep into the marrow of your bones. You are not a project. You are not a product. You are not a set of metrics to be improved or a series of failures to be corrected. You are a process, a flowing, evolving, and radiant process of the universe experiencing itself through the unique lens of your consciousness. The very fact that you are here, that you are capable of feeling this, that you are capable of witnessing this, is the greatest miracle of all. You do not need to do anything to earn your place in this world. You already belong. The ground beneath you, the air around you, the light that touches your skin, they are all part of you, and you are part of them. The separation is the final illusion, the last lingering shadow of the architect's dream. We are ready to leave the ruins of the garden behind. We are ready to stop looking at the cracks in the walls and start looking at the sky above the roof. The light is coming in, through every break, through every imperfection, through every place where we thought we were broken. And that is where the beauty is. That is where the truth is. That is where we are, finally truly alive. The second arrow has been pulled out. The hand that held the bow has been relaxed. The arm that held the shield has been rested. We are standing empty-handed, empty-hearted, and completely, utterly free. And in this freedom we find the courage to walk forward, not into a future that we have engineered, but into a life that we are finally, truly ready to inhabit. We are the architects of nothing, and in that, we are the masters of everything. The journey is just beginning. The space is waiting, and you are at last home. We are moving now into the bedrock of this work. The point where the insights we have gathered shift from being mere thoughts into the living tissue of our daily existence. We have acknowledged the architect of our past defenses. We have felt the anatomy of our resistance, and we have begun to see the second arrow for the fiction it truly is. Now, we must cultivate the discipline to remain in this open, unscripted field, even when the old habits of the ego come clawing at the gates, begging us to build, to justify, and to define ourselves once more. This is not a project of adding new knowledge, it is a project of subtraction, of stripping away the layers of commentary that prevent us from seeing the world as it truly is. We begin by practicing the art of somatic noticing, a way of training the mind to return to the body, for the body is the only place where the present moment can ever be truly felt. Consider how we spend most of our waking hours. We are lost in a landscape of future scenarios and past regrets. Our awareness tethered to the glow of screens, the chatter of social expectation, and the frantic pace of a life that is measured in outcomes rather than experiences. To break this rhythm, we must first learn to anchor ourselves. When you feel that familiar rise of tension, the tightening in your chest, the sudden shallow breath that signals the arrival of the second arrow, do not try to push it away. Instead, treat it as a signal, a bell ringing in the cathedral of your own being. Pause. In that moment of pause, direct your attention not to the story your mind is telling, but to the raw physical sensation in your body. Where is the tightness? What is its texture? Is it a weight, a heat, a cold, a vibration? By simply observing the sensation without naming it, without judging it, and without trying to fix it, you begin to deprive the second arrow of its fuel. You are learning to inhabit the pain without becoming the victim of it. This is the practice of somatic stillness. It is the ability to sit with the discomfort of being human and to recognize that the discomfort itself is not a sign of failure, but a sign of life. As you practice this, you will notice that the sensations are not static. They are like weather patterns, constantly shifting, moving, and dissolving. If you allow them to be, if you do not fight to hold on to them or push them away, they will eventually move through you, leaving behind a profound, quiet clarity. This is the structural integrity we spoke of earlier. It is the capacity to hold the turbulence of life without being moved by it. It is the strength of the tree that bends in the wind, not because it is weak, but because it is rooted in the deep, unmoving earth of the present. The next step in our discipline is the practice of intentional subtraction. Throughout your day, you are bombarded by information, by tasks, by expectations, and by the relentless pressure to be more, to do more, and to have more. We are like a house that has been expanded beyond its original capacity, its walls cracking under the weight of too many additions. We must begin to prune. We must begin to ask ourselves, in every moment, what is truly necessary for our peace of mind, and what is merely a burden we have agreed to carry. This is not about leaving our responsibilities behind. It is about changing our relationship to them. It is about performing our work with a light touch, knowing that our worth is not tied to the result, but to the quality of our presence in the process. When you approach a task, can you do it with your whole attention, without the constant background noise of worry about the outcome? Can you work with the grace of a gardener who plants the seed and tends to the soil, but who does not demand that the plant grow according to an arbitrary human schedule? This leads us to the practice of the open palm. We spend so much of our lives with our fists clenched, trying to hold on to the people we love, the status we have achieved, and the identities we have carefully crafted. We are terrified that if we open our hands, we will lose everything. But consider what happens when we hold on to something too tightly. The hand becomes exhausted, the grip becomes painful, and the object we are trying to protect is stifled. By opening our hands, we are not rejecting the world, we are choosing to interact with it as a participant rather than a possessor. We are acknowledging that everything in this world, the joys, the sorrows, the successes, and the failures, is a temporary guest. We are learning to welcome them when they arrive, and to let them depart when it is their time, without trying to anchor them to our own fragile ego structure. As you move through your day, practice this in the small moments. When you receive a critique, instead of building a wall of defense, take a breath and notice the feeling of the second arrow, trying to form the urge to explain, to blame, to justify. Just notice it. And then intentionally open your palm, both physically and metaphorically, and let the comment pass through you like the wind. When you feel a surge of pride in an achievement, notice that, too, recognize it for what it's, a fleeting, pleasant sensation that has no permanence, and then let it go, so that you do not become dependent on the next rush of validation. You are training the mind to be like the air, which accommodates everything but holds onto nothing. This discipline requires a radical commitment to honesty. We are so used to lying to ourselves, to painting our lives in colors that we think others want to see, that we have lost the ability to speak the truth even to our own hearts. We must begin to look at our inner life with the same clarity and lack of judgment that a scientist uses to observe a laboratory specimen. When you feel jealousy, admit it. When you feel fear, acknowledge it. When you feel joy, own it. Do not suppress these feelings. Do not try to curate them into something more socially acceptable. By seeing them clearly, by naming them without judgment, you take away their power to haunt you. You are no longer the one being acted upon by these emotions. You are the one observing them from the vantage point of your own sovereign consciousness. The practice of intentional silence is perhaps the most challenging, yet the most rewarding of all. In a world of constant artificial noise, silence is a revolutionary act. It is the act of stepping out of the flow of content and into the flow of awareness. Every day find a moment, even if it is only 10 minutes, to sit in true unadorned silence. Do not fill this space with podcast music or the endless chatter of your own thoughts. Just sit. Observe the way the mind tries to fill the space, the way it grabs onto memories, plans, and anxieties as if they were life rafts. Simply watch the mind do its work, and keep coming back, again and again, to the feeling of your breath, the feeling of your weight on the chair, the feeling of the space in the room. This is the laboratory of the soul. This is where you learn that the silence is not empty, but full of the presence of your true self, waiting for you to notice it. We are, in this practice, retraining the nervous system. We are teaching the body that it is safe to be in the present moment, even when that moment is not perfect, even when it is not what we expected. This is not an overnight transformation. It is a slow, steady, and beautiful process of coming home to ourselves. It is like the process of carving a sculpture out of marble. You do not add to the stone to create the form, you remove the excess, the parts that do not belong. Until the truth of the piece is revealed, we are removing the layers of conditioned behavior, the armor of our defenses, and the stories that we have told ourselves for so long that we have mistaken them for reality. We are revealing the essence of our own unscripted life. As you engage in this practice, remember that the goal is not to become a perfect human being. There is no such thing. The goal is to become a fully human being, one who is capable of feeling everything, one who is capable of witnessing everything, and one who is not afraid of the fluidity of life. We are learning that the instability we fear is actually the source of our creative potential. If we were solid, we would be static, unable to change or grow. Because we are fluid, we are capable of becoming anything. We are the water that takes the shape of the vessel, the wind that moves through the forest, the light that shines through the prism. We are the witness to our own unfolding, and that is a task of infinite complexity and infinite grace. There will be days when this practice feels impossible. There will be days when the architect within you will rise up and demand to be in control, when the second arrow will hit its mark with such force that you will find yourself lost in a sea of your own making. Do not be discouraged by this. The fact that you notice your own struggle is itself a sign of progress. The practice is not about avoiding the struggle. It is about how you relate to it when it arrives. Can you look at your own suffering with the compassion of a friend? Can you look at your own mistakes with the curiosity of a learner? When you fall, can you stand up with a smile, acknowledging that this too is part of the path, and that you are learning something valuable about the nature of your own resistance? This is how we build the structural integrity of the heart. We don't build it by never experiencing pain. We build it by experiencing pain and choosing not to let it define us. We don't build it by never failing. We build it by failing and recognizing that our worth remains untouched. Because our worth is not something that can be gained or lost, it is something that we are. We are the source of our own peace, the silent observing consciousness that has been there all along, beneath the layers of our own frantic building. And as we continue to practice, as we continue to let go, we find that the world itself seems to shift. The people around us become less like obstacles and more like fellow travelers. The events of our lives become less like threats and more like opportunities to witness the unfolding of the truth. We are beginning to see the interconnectedness of all things. We are beginning to see that the barrier we thought existed between ourselves and the world was an illusion, a wall we built to keep ourselves safe, but which only succeeded in keeping us alone. When we drop the wall, we realize that we are part of the vast, intricate, and beautiful web of existence. We are part of the movement, part of the flow, part of the process. We have a responsibility to act with kindness, with awareness, and with integrity, not because it is a moral requirement, but because it is the natural expression of a heart that is no longer closed. When we recognize our own suffering, we recognize the suffering of others, and our natural response is not to judge, but to reach out, to offer a hand, to be a source of stability in a world that is constantly changing. This is the ultimate, quiet revolution of the spirit. It starts in the small, unadorned corners of our own consciousness, and it ripples out into every aspect of our lives. It changes the way we speak to our loved ones, the way we perform our work, the way we engage with the challenges of our time, and the way we hold the weight of our own existence. It is not a path of escape, but a path of deep, radical engagement. We are fully in the world, fully in the pain, fully in the joy, but we are not lost in it. We are the space in which it all occurs, and in that space we are free. We are free to be kind, free to be curious, free to be ourselves, and free to wonder at the magnificent, unfolding mystery of being alive. As we continue on this path, remember that the most important tool you have is your own awareness. It is not something you need to develop, it is something you simply need to notice. It is already here. It is the awareness that is reading these words right now. It is the awareness that feels the weight of the air, the rhythm of your heart, and the warmth of the light. Whenever you feel lost, whenever you feel overwhelmed, whenever you feel the grip of the old rigid identity taking hold again, just stop. Take a breath. Come back to the awareness that is here, beneath all the noise, beneath all the effort, beneath all the stories. This is your home. This is your foundation. This is the truth that you can always return to, no matter what happens, no matter where you are, no matter how much the landscape of your life may have changed. The discipline of the mind is the path to the freedom of the soul. By training our attention, by softening our defenses, and by embracing the reality of the present moment, we are transforming ourselves from beings who are driven by the fear of change into beings who are empowered by the reality of impermanence. We are learning that the only true security is the ability to adapt, to let go, and to begin again, over and over and over, as many times as it takes. This is the dance of the living. This is the symphony of the soul. This is the truth that sets us free. And as we walk this path together, we find that the loneliness we once felt is gone, replaced by a profound, quiet sense of connection to all that is. We are not alone. We are part of the whole, and the whole is moving, breathing, and unfolding through us, in every single, precious and fleeting moment. The process of becoming this witness self is not a finite endeavor. It is a lifelong commitment to the truth of your own being. There will be moments of profound insight, where everything will feel clear and effortless, and there will be moments of deep confusion, where you will wonder if you have made any progress at all. Both are part of the path, both are lessons, both are part of the unfolding. The key is to keep coming back, to keep practicing the art of noticing, and to keep opening your heart, even when it feels like a risk. It is a risk, of course. It is the risk of being truly, fully, and unapologetically alive. But it is the only way to experience the fullness of the human potential. It is the only way to taste the nectar of the present moment. As we look toward the final horizon of this journey, consider what it would mean to live your life entirely from this place of presence. What if you stopped waiting for the perfect conditions to be happy? What if you stopped waiting for the perfect version of yourself to emerge? What if you accepted, with your whole heart, that you are enough, right here, right now, with all your jagged edges, all your broken pieces, and all your beautiful, unfolding potential? This is the core of the teaching. You are not a project. You are not a product. You are not a collection of parts to be managed and improved. You are the sacred, living expression of the universe, and you are worthy of your own love and attention, exactly as you are. This is the foundation upon which you can build a life of profound meaning and peace. It is a life that is not measured by the accumulation of external success, but by the quality of your inner connection. It is a life that is not defined by the height of your achievements, but by the depth of your presence. It is a life that is not secured by the strength of your walls, but by the openness of your heart. And as you walk forward, let this be your compass, let this be your guide, and let this be your quiet, unwavering strength. You are home. You have always been home. And the journey, beautiful as it is, was only ever a way of helping you realize that you never had to leave to be exactly who you were always meant to be. The quiet that settles within you now is not a symptom of boredom or withdrawal. It is the settling of the dust in a room that has been stirred by 1,000 different stories. It is the clarity that follows a storm when the winds have died down and the air is finally still. Observe this state. Note how your breath has changed, how your shoulders have relaxed, how the frantic High-pitched anxiety that once characterized your days has been replaced by a low, steady hum of presence. This is your natural state. This is who you are when you are not working so hard to be something else. This is the truth of your own inner garden, before the architect arrived and decided that it needed to be improved. Take this with you as you move back into the world. You do not have to announce it. You do not have to explain it. You do not even have to name it. Just let it be the ground upon which you stand. When the world demands your attention, give it, but give it with a sense of detachment, knowing that it is not the totality of your reality. When the world demands your labor, perform it, but perform it with a sense of grace, knowing that it is not the source of your worth. And when the world presents you with the inevitable challenges, the losses, and the difficulties of being human, meet them with the quiet, open courage of one who knows that the second arrow cannot harm the heart that has already let go of the need to be anything other than what it is. The path is before you. It is vast, it is unscripted, and it is entirely your own. You have the tools, you have the understanding, and you have the inner ground that can sustain you. The rest is simply the act of living, of showing up, and of being present for the unfolding of your own singular and beautiful story. There is no right way to do this. There is only the way that you are doing it, and that is more than enough. You are the architect of your own silence, the gardener of your own peace, and the witness to your own infinite reality, and that is all that you have ever needed to be. We have reached the final shore of this long descent, a place not marked by the arrival at a destination, but by the quiet realization that the journey itself was the transformation. We stand now in a state of structural integrity, a state where the person is no longer a rigid, fragile building that must break in the face of the storm, but an expansive, porous garden that absorbs the rain, benefits from the wind, and remains deeply rooted in the fertile, dark soil of reality. This is the luminous clarity that follows the storm, the state of mind where the world is seen exactly as it is, stripped of the distorting lenses of fear, projection, and the desperate need for external validation. We are no longer the architects of our own imprisonment. We have set down the heavy tools of performance and stepped into the open, sun-drenched courtyard of the present. Think of the person you were when we first began this journey. The one who held the breath high in the chest, the one who walked through the world with shoulders braced against an unseen weight, the one who believed that peace was something to be earned through the relentless, exhausting labor of building a perfect, impenetrable life. That person was not broken, but they were deeply, profoundly misaligned. They were caught in the loop of the second arrow, believing that the pain of being human was a personal failing that required a more complex structure to hide. But look at you now. The breath has settled into the belly, the jaw has softened, the shoulders have dropped, and there is a spaciousness in your awareness that was absent before. You have not changed who you are. You have simply removed the layers of conditioned noise that obscured the truth of your own natural state. This quiet sovereignty is not an achievement to be framed on a wall or a title to be broadcast to the world. It is a quiet inner leadership that requires no external applause because it is completely self-sustaining. It is the capacity to walk through the fire of daily life and remain cool, not because you are cold or indifferent, but because you have realized that the fire cannot burn the essence of who you are. You have discovered that you are the space, the light, and the wind that moves through the garden, and that none of these things can ever be diminished by the changing of the seasons. You have learned that your worth is not a currency to be traded for the approval of others, but an inherent radiant quality that belongs to you by the very virtue of your existence. Reflect for a moment on the transient nature of all structures. Everything you see, everything you have ever built, every version of yourself you have ever inhabited, is moving, shifting, and changing. This is not a cause for despair. It is the ultimate relief. If nothing is permanent, then nothing is ever stuck. The failures of your past do not define you, for they have already passed away. The anxieties of your future do not hold you, for they have not yet been born. You are left with only this, the singular, fleeting and precious moment, the only place where life actually happens. To inhabit this place with an open palm is the highest form of courage. It is the wisdom to know that life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be witnessed, a song to be sung, and a movement to be felt. We leave this space not as people who have finished their work, but as people who have finally begun to live. The world will still be loud, the challenges will still arise, and the tides of grief and joy will continue to wash over the landscape of your life. But you will no longer be swept away by them. You will be the earth that holds the tide, the mirror that reflects the light, and the witness that remains perfectly still in the heart of the movement. You have the structural integrity to hold the weight of reality, and you have the luminous clarity to see the beauty hidden within the cracks. You are no longer the builder, you are the building, the garden and the sky all at once. There is a final, lingering question that remains, a question that is not meant to be answered by the mind, but to be carried into the marrow of your bones as you return to your day. It is a question that will echo in the silence, long after these words have faded, a question that will pull you back to your center whenever you feel the urge to pick up the tools of the architect again. When the noise of the world rises, when the pressure to perform feels heavy, and when the desire to control the unfolding of your life becomes almost unbearable, ask yourself, if you were to stop building this very moment, if you were to lay down the blueprint, the expectations, and the armor of the past, and simply exist as the vast, unscripted and beautiful witness of your own life, what is the truth that is left behind? And how would it feel to finally, truly, walk into the world as that?